The country is facing yet another backlash. This after the Speaker of the Canadian House of Commons honoured a Nazi veteran in the Canadian Parliament. In a session that was attended by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Ukrainian President Zelensky, Speaker Anthony Rota recognized Yaroslav Hunka as a hero and thanked him for his service. The Nazi veteran also received a standing ovation from the Canadian Parliament. Both Zelensky and Trudeau joined in acknowledging Hunka with an applause. Hunka served in one of Adolf Hitler's Waffen-SS units during World War II. This did not go down well with the rest of the world, and opposition leaders and a Jewish human rights group have now demanded an apology from Speaker Rota for honouring a person whose lies with the Nazi are well documented. The Speaker of the House of Commons later also issued an apology to the Jewish community and claimed that the entire initiative was his own. Meanwhile, Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau also expressed that he was deeply embarrassed by this incident. On the other hand, the Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov has stated that the entire episode showed a careless disregard for historical truth. What does such an embarrassment mean for the Trudeau administration and for the Prime Minister himself, that too amid a backlash that's already taking place geopolitically as far as Canada's support to Khalistan extremism is concerned? Let's try and place the geopolitical standing of such a controversy. And for that, let me introduce my guest today. I'm joined in by Puneet Sahni, who's a scholar on Khalistan extremism and the origins of Sikhism. Many thanks to you, Puneet, for joining in. How do you weigh in on the apology that's been offered by Justin Trudeau and the Speaker of the House of Commons, Mr. Rota? Many are saying it's too little too late.
I just think he's like out of his depth. He is not a serious politician. So, whoever presents something in front of him, he just comes and, speaks it. So it just shows, like he's not just compromised. But he just doesn't have gravitas, and it's very sad what Canada is undergoing.
All right. Also, leader of the opposition, Pierre Poilievre, has slammed the Speaker and Trudeau, demanding the resignation of the Speaker amid such a diplomatic row with India over Khalistan extremism. How is honouring of a Nazi in the Canadian Parliament going to be viewed all over the world?
Of course, it is viewed in like terrible, terrible light. And I think, it will probably gather more attention because, of course, I believe all human lives are equal. But, of course, white lives matter more than brown lives in the eyes of the Western world. And also, the world is much, much more alarmed about anti-Semitism than Hindu phobia. So they have an idea, this war criminal should not be. And, if you just see, I just put video, I got access to the secret video. So where they are doing this referendum, Talvinder Parmar, who basically bombed, these over 300 people mid-air. And, ma'am, to tell you something, you just hear the number 331. I actually know some of the families. And anybody who has lost, early a family member knows how you go through the grief. So these people, they were going for summer vacation. 85 were kids under 12 years old. These families are still grieving. And what are these? Pannu and Bakadi and everybody, you can see it's a video on my Twitter. It's going viral. The guys are saying, long live Parmar. Jathedar Parmar, Talvinder Singh Zindabad. It's like saying, Mengele or Hitler Zindabad. But, the thing is, they don't care because, our lives don't matter. So, of course, if he's is not, I hope other people pay attention to what kind of politics is happening in Canada now.
Puneet, after this passionate address that was delivered by Zelensky in the parliament, he raised his fist in acknowledgement to the veteran who, of course, saluted. Lastly, where does this leave Zelensky, who is Jewish and himself lost his family members during the Holocaust, but now is looking for Western aid?
So first of all, what Trudeau did, there is no justification of that. What Canadian Parliament did, and it should be ashamed of it. Now about Zelensky, I'm of course not justifying any war criminal, but you think, when war was happening, and if you look at what happened in Kiev, it was like the biggest in history how this army did, and the Ukrainians were kind of like fighting the Russians who were doing, and they were not some big power who were doing it. And a lot of times, when they were also fighting, people were coerced to fight. So it's a very, very murky world about which I don't know the specifics before making it. So, like if, there might be a context or something, of course, there is no support of, anti-Semitism or something like that. But a lot of people who were fighting, there were also like coerced to fight. And there might be some people who were fighting not because, they might have supported the Germans, but they really wanted to hated Russia more. So, like these things are very complicated. But what Trudeau and Canada has done is unforgivable.
All right. Thank you so much, Puneet, for joining in. On that note, let's also tell you more about this Nazi veteran who was honored in the Canadian Parliament. Remember, he's 97 years old. But what is the history behind this war veteran of World War II? Let's tell you more about it.
And I'm deeply sorry that I've offended many with my gesture and remarks.
That's the Speaker of Canada's House of Commons apologizing for praising an individual at a parliamentary meeting who served in a Nazi unit during World War II. On Friday, during a visit by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, Speaker Anthony Rota recognized 98-year-old Yaroslav Hunka as a, quote, Ukrainian hero. Hunka served in World War II as a member of the 14th Waffen Grenadier Division of the SS. That's according to the Friends of Simon Wiesenthal Center, a Jewish human rights group that demanded an apology on Sunday. Rota acknowledged Hunka after a speech by Zelensky, praising the World War II veteran for fighting for Ukrainian independence against the Russians.
Even at his age of 98.
Hunka received 2 standing ovations from lawmakers. In his apology, Rota said he alone was responsible.
No one, including you, my fellow parliamentarians, or the Ukraine delegation, was privy to my remarks prior to their delivery.
In Parliament, reaction came quickly from the government.
I think it's been deeply embarrassing for Canada, and I think it was deeply embarrassing for the President of the Ukraine, who came here in friendship.
And members of the opposition.
It was profoundly hurtful for so many Canadians and to people around the world. And he has to step down as a consequence of that.
Hunka could not be reached for comment.
Obviously, it's extremely upsetting that this happened. The speaker has acknowledged his mistake and has apologized. But this is something that is deeply embarrassing to the Parliament of Canada and, by extension, to all Canadians. I think particularly of Jewish MPs and all members of the Jewish community across the country who are commemorating Yom Kippur today. I think it's going to be really important that all of us push back against Russian propaganda, Russian disinformation, and continue our steadfast and unequivocal support for Ukraine as we did last week with announcing further measures to stand with Ukraine in Russia's illegal war against it.